Sexual abuse allegations against the former doctor for the U.S. women's national gymnastics team languished for months before the federal probe escalated to the highest levels of the sport, now involving some of gymnastics' biggest stars. Joining us to discuss this WSJ exclusive is Rebecca Davis O'Brien. Welcome, Rebecca. So great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's back up a little bit. Dr. Larry Nassar was the doctor for the U.S. women's gymnastics team for about 30 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he was arrested in November. What were the charges?
He was arrested in November by Michigan state authorities and a sex abuse issue there that involved someone who wasn't a gymnast. It was a family friend, and some of the details of that, emerged in those allegations. And then he was charged by federal authorities in December on child pornography charges.
So he still is not he could still face criminal charges based on his actions with the U.S. women's gymnastics team, correct? That's still an ongoing investigation.
Yes, that's still an ongoing investigation.
But you've sort of uncovered that these allegations or accusations were made about 10 months before it seems that the probe really escalated. And what's problematic about that is it seems that during that 10-month period, other women and girls have come forward saying that they were also abused. Is that right?
Yeah, the timeline's kind of tricky. So all of these allegations against Dr. Nassar really emerged in August 2016. The Indy Star wrote a great piece about several women who came forward to say, well, I was a gymnast or an athlete. Many of them at Michigan. Since then, dozens have come forward. He was also a doctor at Michigan State University. And so there were these claims made in the media, and then that is what prompted the Michigan Attorney General's investigation and an inquiry at MSU as well, which is what led to him being fired there and the federal charges on child pornography. He hasn't faced anything related to his actually his medical practice or to USA Gymnastics, his work with gymnasts. And
has his license been revoked?
It's licensed to practice. He's an osteopathic physician.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me is that the USA Gymnastics kept saying, when we first received these complaints in 2015, we immediately reported them to law enforcement. And I thought, wait a second, this sort of dawned on me that there had to have been something going on earlier. And it turned out, through our reporting, that a complaint by an elite U.S. gymnast at the time, who was vying for a spot in the Olympic.
Right. So this is the
Rio.
top. This is
these are the
top level,
top gymnasts in the country.
Yeah.
There had been an overheard conversation at the famed, storied Caroli Ranch in Texas. A coach overheard two gymnasts speaking about their treatment, Dr. Nassar's treatment, and I think they were kind of grossed out by it.
Yeah.
And that was in June, spring 2015. That is transmitted to the USA Gymnastics leadership.
So the coach who overheard that conversation reported it to leadership,
yes.
Right? As well as, in your article, it says, as well as to the gymnasts' parents.
Yes.
Right? And the gymnasts' parents then said they felt that maybe that they were encouraged not to report it to authorities.
Yes, the parents said that they felt discouraged from going forward on their own to law enforcement, and the idea was, I think, USA Gymnastics, and they say as much, we reveal as much in our story, that USA Gymnastics thought it was best, based on what they knew from the gymnast at the time, to do an internal investigation. So they spoke with some other athletes. And so in mid-June, they get the report of the concerns about Dr. Nassar's treatment. And July 27th, to the end, roughly 5 weeks or 6 weeks, they go to the Indianapolis FBI with what they found.
Now, we should say that a lot of these accusations center around a medical technique that Dr. Nassar, which is an accepted medical technique, and Dr. Nassar accepts that he has used this technique on the girls, correct? He admits to it. And it involves massaging of the internal vaginal walls. Is that correct? Now, the problem is that a lot of the girls and women have come forward and said what about this? Yeah,
well, so it isn't an accident that the things he's been charged with don't relate to his medical practice. And I think part of that really highlights the uncertainty that law enforcement feels and might feel, and parents might feel, and patients might feel about what is this medical practice. Right. He's an osteopathic physician. There is an accepted but rare form of treatment that involves intravaginal massage. And Dr. Nasser, we note in the story as well, had been, and this has been reported, was cleared in an internal MSU or Michigan State University inquiry several years over this practice. There had been a complaint about it in 2014, and he had been sort of not reprimanded. He is just told, remember, you need to explain what this procedure is. You need to use gloves. You need to, if there's a minor, you need to have a chaperone.
But many of the girls said he did not follow those procedures.
Right. Now it's all coming out. These dozens of women and girls have said that over the years, decades, while he was a practicing physician, he did this, their allegations really range from he did this without gloves to he did it for an hour. Yeah. He did this,
with no
while
adult
discussing,
in the room.
yes,
there was
discussing
a minor
sex with him. Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of allegations out there, and he has not been charged with these crimes related to this, and he's denied any wrongdoing.
And is pleading not guilty.
He's pleading not guilty.
So where does this investigation now stand?
So after it was reported to the Indianapolis FBI in July 2015 by USA Gymnastics, it then was passed along to the FBI in Detroit, and it doesn't seem that it really gathered any momentum there. They didn't open a formal investigation. It's sort of a term of art in law enforcement, but it didn't progress. They didn't, the original national team gymnast whose parents I spoke with, they weren't contacted by the FBI at all. And for 14 months, they didn't hear anything from the FBI, or a year, they didn't hear anything from the FBI. And then on the eve of the Olympic trials in June 2016, they get a call from the Los Angeles FBI, and it turns out that USA Gymnastics, they say that they got concerned by the lack of progress on the case. USA Gymnastics went to the Los Angeles FBI. They said, what's going on here? This is what we reported. And since then, the FBI in Los Angeles has picked up the case.
USA Gymnastics deserves some credit for starting the motor up again.
That's what they say. And I think that, they're clearly concerned about this, and it is a complicated case.
Sure.
It's law enforcement I used to cover courts and criminal justice. It's tricky. The FBI doesn't want you to talk about certain things. They don't want you to reveal in certain cases that an active investigation is ongoing, even if you're the reporter. Yeah. It's tricky, and their obligations here are tricky. So right now, where it stands is we have, as we say at the top of the story, a bunch of Olympians and top U.S. gymnasts have been interviewed in connection with this investigation.
And some are bringing civil charges against him, correct?
Yeah, others have. Yeah, a number of. There's at least one former Olympian, who has filed a lawsuit against him.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Rebecca Davis O'Brien, thank you so much for your great reporting.
Thank you.